Right, we're on. Did you know the human head weighs on average 11 pounds? That's just 3 pounds light of a stone. So if the average human head weighs 11 pounds, then moving that head around is obviously going to do something to your golf swing. If you start moving your head, this heavy weight, this mass here, if that's getting moved around during the golf swing, then how can we possibly control our swing centre? This video has 3 parts to it. Part 1 will be your feet, part 2 will be the golf tee, and part 3 will be owning the shot. And at the end of it, you'll be much more centred and your strike will be off the planet. Right, we're on. Engage. Sounds a little bit crazy. Those flowers are lovely, aren't they? It happens. What does it involve? Let's make it tight and tough. Look at that. Brutal. Technical? I don't think so. Look at the quality. Designed the packaging myself. Pretty clean, eh? 2 small things. Everybody on tour does it, but it's not that hard. I think you'll enjoy it. It's going to be quite intense though. It's a world-class leather glove day today. So initially we have to stay centred to the golf ball. I'm a huge fan, I'm a massive fan of staying centred and controlling low point. Without low point control, so the low point, the club makes an arc, the lowest point to that arc, without being able to control that, you can't control strike. If your low point is too early, you're going to hit the ground first. We want to hit ball, then turf, but then control low point when we hit the driver as well. Now, the best drill I've ever experienced, a professional who used to teach me, taught me this: hit balls with your feet together. Now I get the merit in that, absolutely. Feet together, 90 degrees to my intended target line. I have an 8 iron for this little shot. Feet together, back and through. This is part 1, looking at the feet. So feet together, and I need to stay centred. If I move off the centre, so if my mass, my 11 pounds of complete and utter brain, not sure that's the truth. I wish it was all brain. That sun's come out and now the camera's, what? So we've moved position slightly, but you'll get the idea. Ideally we'd be face on. I keep my feet together, head's in line with the golf ball, take the club back. If my head moves off the centre, so my spine, if my head moves off the centre, all of a sudden there's 11 pounds wanting to go down here. It's wanting to take me away from the golf ball. That's going to distort my low point. My low point is now going to be where my head or the mass of my body is, and 11 pounds is contributing to that mass. So if I keep my feet together, nose in line with the golf ball, and just hit some soft shots, I should have good control of low point. Lovely. Great control of low point, and I am fully centred to the shot. Okay, so standing there hitting balls with feet together, you'll also work on rhythm here, you'll also work on grip pressure here, but keeping the feet together to stay as centred as you can. And of course, yes, I'm going to lose distance with this shot just now until we get to part 3 where you own the shot, but just now I'm going to lose some distance, but I have to stay as centred as I possibly can to that golf ball in order to control low points. So I'm there. 2 very good shots, fully controlled and how would you say, swinging within the parameters of my body. So not moving, not swinging too hard, too fast, too wide, too narrow. It's just I'm nicely centred and I'm able to swing the golf club. And therefore I've controlled the low point. I've got 100% control of that low point. Now of course I've lost power. Okay, I've lost power or distance because, well, simply because I am now not got nearly as much body rotation. But the object of this first part was to control the low point. Now, second part, we can add more power as long as we stay centred. Okay, so we're going to split the feet apart and we're going to use a golf tee for this. So take a golf tee from your pocket, any golf tee will do. And I'm going to place this golf tee in my mouth. Okay, golf tee in my mouth, pointing towards the golf ball. So I'm going to widen my stance just a fraction and I'm going to keep the golf tee pointing towards the golf ball. Now what does that do? Well, it's pretty simple really. It's going to keep my nose in line with my ball. It's going to keep me centred there, slightly wider stance. If I move my head off the golf ball, I can visually see where the tee points. So I need to keep the tee pointing towards the golf ball. That way my head stayed level. My ears have stayed level, my nose has stayed level, and my eyes are 90 degrees to that. So my tee points towards the golf ball. There, there, which is effectively the same as having feet together. So I'm now starting to do part 3, starting to own the shot. If I'm able to keep that tee pointing towards the golf ball, and now I have a little bit more purchase on it. So there's more purchase on the shot, slightly wider stance, but still centred using the tee in my mouth. And it's incredible, when you move the 11 pounds of mass, you can see immediately where the tee has gone. So I'm set there. As soon as I move, my tee's now pointing here, this way, my tee's pointing here. I have to keep it pointing towards the golf ball. There. So I know at the top of my swing now, I'm centred on top of that ball. Therefore, it's much easier to move ahead of the golf ball before the club head makes contact with it. Therefore, getting the ball turf strike. There's two people, two walkers just... Does that annoy you when people walk on the golf course? You know, there's a whole world to walk in, but they choose the golf course to walk on. I mean, go for a walk in the woods somewhere. So now I've forgotten where I was at. There we go. On top of the ball, centred. I'm much easier to move low point, so move my body ahead of the ball before. So I'm aware the tee is going to be slightly ahead of the golf ball now before I make contact with it, with the golf club head. There you go. You've probably heard that one. How good that was. There. Now, we can't golf with this tee in our mouth all the time. We could golf with the tee in our mouth all the time if we wanted. I mean, it's up to yourself, of course. Part 3. Part 3 is all about owning the shot. So I'm now much more centred to the golf ball. I've done my feet together to ensure I was centred. So feet were together, centred, centred. I put the tee in my mouth in part 2 with a wider stance. Tee points towards the golf ball. Tee's now ahead of the golf ball a fraction, and therefore I'm going to get ball then turf strike. So much better control of low point. But now we have to own the shot. Put your tee back in your pocket and actually own the shot. So when I say own the shot, I grew up in North Berwick playing in the wind, and when you play in the wind and you need to keep the ball low in links golf in Scotland, you need to be on top of that golf ball. At the point of impact there, you need to be on top of this golf ball here. You can't afford to be up and out of it, you have to be on it. So when I think about this part 1 and part 2, feet together and tee in the mouth, I've got my full stance now, feet together and tee in the mouth, so I can feel it on the way back. I'm there, but I'm now on top of this golf ball. So I'm really visualising that tee being in the mouth and my body being on top of the golf ball. My body will not be on top of the golf ball if my head moves around. Yeah, if I take the club back here, there, there's no way I'm going to get on top of that golf ball. I'd have to move my head back. So the actual act of keeping the head square, as I mentioned briefly before, ears, nose, eyes at 90 degrees to that, if I can keep that on top of the golf ball moving ahead through impact, I will own the shot. I will have what's called forward bend and right bend. So forward bend and right bend at impact. So I'll be there, more on top of the golf ball there, because I'm aware that my head is nice and level. So I'm there, owning the shot. So I fully own the shot. I'm on top of it, I own it. There's no flailing around. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no flailing around and all these moving parts. It's a compact action because my head stayed still. If my head moves back, there's lots of parts. The upper body is moving away, knees are turning. If I can keep that, visualise that tee in there and me staying bent over in my forward bend, which then goes into right bend through impact, tee pointing at the golf ball and ahead, I'm going to be pretty good. I've never missed any of them yet. So the sun has gone away, visualise this now, feet together, centred, tee in the mouth, tee points towards the ball, still centred, tee moving ahead. Now I've got both of those together and forward bend and right bend, so I'm staying down for longer, I'm owning the shot. I can't stay down for longer if my head moves away. My head's down, I'm there, staying down for longer. I'm this side now of the golf ball, my head never moved, the 11 pounds never moved that way. That will improve your golf, your low point control will be exceptional because of that, love it. Check out Loft and Lie, that golf glove brand is unbelievably good. Also my website, Eureka Golf Swing, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.